In this video, I'd like to give you an overarching view of assessment associated with BIOL 3238. I've gone with a very straightforward approach in that we have fewer assessment items, but high quality deep dives into entomology. And I hope you appreciate that there are fewer assessments, but there is expectation for you to push yourselves within each assessment. So I'll briefly go through the 3 assessment pieces associated with the course. The first is a hot topics presentation. The specific details and weighting of these assessments will be provided in writing in a dedicated section on Blackboard. But for now, I'm just using this video to briefly describe these core assessments so that you can have a good idea and sort of mentally prepare yourself for the semester to come. Hot Topics is your opportunity to deep dive into one particular aspect of insect structure, function, and physiology. I need to make very clear that grammatically, I've used an "and" in what I just said. Structure, function, and physiology, which means that this presentation needs to link all 3. Structure and function are generally quite obvious. You pretty much frequently hear form and function. The form influences the function has driven the evolution of the form. Now, physiology is, of course, the overlaying biology that makes it more active. So that is the general rule of thumb, but the Hot Topics presentation is meant to showcase one aspect of insect structure, function, and physiology that is developed enough that it is specific and fun and topical. So it could even be questioning things like whether or not some Pokemon are biologically possible. But it could also go into something a bit more technical, like whether or not some of our modern day pesticides actually work for the insects that they are sold, that they claim that they can combat. There are many other options, and I am very happy to work with you to develop and refine your ideas. The second big one is a very creative way of assessing the softer skills you develop through your research project. The previous video where I described the learning activities would have revealed that we're having an open lab. During that window of time, you have access to the lab to conduct small independent research projects related to entomology. Now, of course, I can be really old school and assess you with a report at the end of your project. I'm not going to bother doing that because there's a very good chance you're going to AI the thing. So no need for a report at the end of it. But this assessment is basically interested in your ongoing and consistent participation in developing this research project. It's called the Professional Engagement Portfolio because you're going to showcase and record your professional engagement. How you will do this and when you will do this, I will clarify when I see you, and it'll be properly put in the task sheet. But you are collecting evidence in written form, whether handwritten or digital, basically thinking of it as a journal that is developed between you, maybe your teammates, as well as the academic supervising your project. And we're interested in unpacking the challenges, the opportunities, the limitations, the future studies. Think of it as a bit of an adventure that you're going on and a logbook that keeps record of this adventure. We're going to assess you based on how you engage with us. And you can think of it as opportunity to develop your employability skills, your ability to negotiate your proposed ideas with the resources we have, your ability to respond to questions that we ask of you, your ability to be receptive to taking feedback, and of course, hard work in the lab and actually doing a project are all things we're looking out for. And the final assessment, which will happen during exam block, is a collaborative exam. And if you've done courses with me before, you'll know that this is a highly enjoyable experience where you and a small group of friends can sit together comfortably, maybe over a cup of coffee, bring some snacks, and actually work on some problems together. It is a problem-solving assessment where you will be given different scenarios, different context, and different stimulus that can take the shape and form of graphs or tables or experimental designs, and you unpack what you see, and there are structured questions that help you investigate your problem-solving ability. And we can really assess based on your responses what kind of a critical thinker you are. Which also brings me to a reminder that the SDL component of the course, the self-directed learning component of the course, is not just fun and games. It's not, while it is not going to be explicitly assessed, right? I'm not ever going to ask you to recall information that you have read in an SDL, but I am expecting you to draw links. So you might encounter in the collaborative exam an instance where it's asking you to analyze a graph, but then providing the biological explanation for that result. You then need to link perhaps a physiological concept that you covered in the SDL that is related to the graphical stimulus that you've seen. So what I am saying is, even though the SDL material is not explicitly assessed, you don't want to be in a situation where you are completely unfamiliar with it, because in an exam setting, even though it's open book, the last thing you want to do is waste time having to go back and forth the SDL because you don't know where things are. So these are the 3 core assessments you'll find in the course. 30% hot topics, 40% professional engagement, 30% collaborative exam for the 100% in the course. Assessment timeline is probably what you're interested in. And just note that this timeline in this example here starts with the mid-semester break, because all the assessment pieces are due after the mid-semester break, even though for a good number of them you start before. Week 8 is when you will deliver your 30% hot topics. And in that window of the open lab across weeks 9 and 11, you're developing your professional engagement portfolio, 40% of the course. Finally, in exam block, so of course I can't tell you which block because we have to wait until the exam timetable is released, typically in mid-sem. You will take your collaborative exam within the exam block window. So hopefully this gives you opportunity to plan your attack and make sure that you are completing your assessments timely and putting sufficient effort into doing good work. Looking forward to seeing some of the work that you produce.